Inaz and the Two Unmarriageable Lovers. A novel by Dr. A. Ahmed. This story is narrated in 4 books. Book 1. Copyrights. All rights are reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer who may quote brief passages in a review to be printed in a newspaper, magazine, school journal, or university article. This novel is a work of fiction, but the entire story is based on the real love story of 2 unmarriageable lovers. Therefore, all names, characters, places, and incidents are either the product of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, events, or locales is entirely coincidental. Chapter 37. No Appeal. In the meantime, the proud Sudanese lawyer, Mr. Ahmed Sulla, is the last person who came to know about the abominable conversion of his daughter from Islam to Christianity. His informant is a top official in the Sudanese embassy in New Delhi. He called him on his phone and in a few words passed to him the disturbing news about the abominable apostasy of his daughter Inaz Ahmed Sulla, who is studying medicine at the University of Bombay. As before, the father exploded up in one of his tantrum rages and began to talk to himself like a madman while he is foaming in his contemptible mouth. He then used every filthy curse he knows against his despicable daughter, who brought once again great shame to her proud Arab tribes of the Shurjia and Jalia. It took him forever to control his wrath without bursting one of his veins or having a major heart attack and dying. After overcoming his violent demonstration of rage and frustration, he decided to fly back to India. This time, he decided not to inform his arrogant wife, Mrs. Siham Sulla. He knows she has a heart problem, and such abominable deed of her bad daughter may cause her untimely death. The proud lawyer did not get the full story about his despicable daughter. He was only informed that his bad daughter had forsaken Islam and became an infidel apostate Christian woman. The official of the Sudanese embassy in New Delhi did not tell him about her haram marriage with an Ethiopian Christian boy. By this time, his 6 months visa to India has expired. It is the visa that he used when he flew from Khartoum to Bombay and through bribery purchased a medical seat for his daughter. So, he drove his vehicle to the Indian embassy and applied for a new 6 months visiting visa. Getting a visa to India is as easy as someone wants to purchase a bus ticket in a local transportation office in Khartoum city. Even so, surprisingly, his application has been rejected. The proud lawyer exploded once again in another wave of rage and demanded the renewal of his visa. His application has been sent along with a big letter of appeal. He stated many reasons for his urgent trip to Hindustan. He lied in his application by mentioning that his only daughter had been in a deadly car accident and now she is lying half dead in the intensive care unit in a hospital, and hence he must be allowed to fly on the same day to Bombay. This time, his application has been sent to the Indian ambassador himself. Even the receptionist girl thought that the rejection was due to some office error. The girl is working in the Indian embassy for 10 years, but she had never witnessed an application for 6 months visiting visa to India was refused before. Even if the worst Muslim terrorist or dangerous jail escapee in Sudan has applied for a visa to visit India, he will be granted one. Alas, the application of the proud Sudanese lawyer has been rejected again. The ambassador wrote in red ink, "No appeal from the applicant of this twice rejected application should be accepted again." It is a final rejection, and that is that. The extremely angry man became insane when the door of his trip to India is blocked forever. He then swallowed his pride and decided to get the visiting visa through bribery. He said in a whisper to the pretty Indian girl that he can give her whatever amount of money she should ask for if she gets him an urgent visa. The lovely girl laughed before she told him she is only a receptionist and can do nothing to change the decision of the ambassador. She then advised him to send someone else from his family to his dying daughter. The rejected and insane man returned to his house and informed his wife what their bad daughter had done and what had happened to him at the Indian embassy. This time, Mrs. Siham Sulla has not received a heart attack. Before conveying the bad news, her cunning husband gave his arrogant wife first the good news that she is going to fly in an airplane immediately. When he saw her become extremely happy, he began to reveal the sad part of the story. Her husband suggested that she should go to India on the same day and bring back with her as soon as possible their bad daughter in chains. Mrs. Siham has never traveled before in a plane. Therefore, the decision of her husband felt like the dew of heaven in her spirit. But Mrs. Siham is not having a passport or knows how the passport looks or for which purpose is used. She remained all her life imprisoned in the four corners of her house. She is a mere housewife. She is an illiterate woman and had never been to school all her life. Her educated husband bought her as a wife from her poor father when she was a child of 13. The only tempting qualities she is a pretty Arab girl, and her both parents are from the prestigious tribe of the Jahiliyyah who believe their great-grandfather is the Prophet Muhammad. She was born and raised up in an extremely far and remote village in North Sudan. She gave birth to her only daughter Anaz, and after that, she lost her uterus in major surgery and became barren forever. It took Mrs. Siham a week to obtain a Sudanese passport. After that, her husband took her to the Indian embassy. Because she can neither read nor write, her educated husband ordered her to go in and ask for an application form and bring it to him to fill it out for her. He sat in his car until she brought the form. He then filled it in and gave it to her. In less than 1 hour, the wife returned with a rejected application. It is written in capital letters, with no appeal to be accepted from this female applicant. The proud Sudanese lawyer, Mr. Ahmed Sulla, felt like jumping out of his car and running inside the building of the Indian embassy of the accursed Hindu idolaters and kill everyone found inside. During this week, the extremely outraged father tried different ways to contact his evil daughter. He tried her cell phone, but it was out of service. He sent many emails, but he got no reply to any of his electronic mails. Finally, a bright idea came to his mind. He decided to contact his son-in-law at Riyadh City and beg him to travel to Bombay and carry out the verdict of obedience which was issued by the judge of the Saudi Sharia court against the runaway wife, and then bring back his rebellious wife Anaz to Saudi Arabia and subject her to a harsh life in his house of obedience. He must tie her with ropes and beat her day and night with his big stick and long whip until her devils of rebellion leave her head. The proud Sudanese lawyer regretted that he talked to his nephew. The gay Osama conveyed to him yet another heartbreaking news. He told him his daughter divorced him through an Indian court and that a Bombay court mailed to him his divorce certificate. Then, the gay, gambler, drunkard, and pimp husband said he will never accept the validity of that an un-Islamic divorce, and therefore Anaz must remain his lawful wife until her death set her apart from him. The heartbroken father said to his former son-in-law, if you believe Anaz is still your lawful wife, then why you should not jump in an airplane, fly to India, and bring her to live under your roof while she is tied up by strong ropes. The proud Sudanese lawyer hid the abominable apostasy of his daughter from her former handsome and highly educated Arab husband. He scared that her Muslim husband may fly to India and murder her if he comes to know she has left the beautiful religion of Islam and accepted the corrupted religion of the accursed infidel Christians. So, the disappointed father decided to look for a solution for his apostate daughter somewhere else. Chapter 38. He is blacklisted. Nevertheless, the proud Muslim father of the apostate girl Anaz has determined not to leave a stone unturned before he can give up. Even if he has to travel by ship from Port Sudan City to Bombay City, he determined to reach his converted from Islam to Christianity accursed apostate daughter and bring her back chained to her seat in a plane. Or if he has to throw his body in the Red Sea and swim through the raging waves of the Indian Ocean and via the Arabian Sea arrive at Bombay. The proud man concluded that in the Indian embassy at Khartoum there is a wicked Hindu diplomat who hates every Muslim man and Muslima woman in the world, and therefore blacklisted each and every male and female with an Islamic name. So, before he can do any crazy thing, Mr. Ahmed Sulla decided to fly first to Egypt and try his luck at the Indian embassy in Cairo. Before he flew there, the proud lawyer wisely applied for a new Sudanese passport. He does not want the Indian diplomats in Egypt to see the double rejection in his current passport. He bribed a few officials at the Khartoum passport office and obtained a new one in the same day. He claimed that he lost his old one. He also used his old story that he has to fly to India because his only beloved daughter Anaz met with a deadly car accident which resulted in the amputation of her 2 hands and both legs, and she is lying dying in a filthy hospital in Bombay. Actually, deep down in his heart, he preferred she had those evils befallen her accursed body rather than becoming an infidel apostate Christian girl. So, with a brand new passport in his hand, the angry Muslim father reached the land of the Great Pyramids of the ancient pharaohs. His plane arrived at 10:30 a.m. From the Cairo International Airport, the proud Sudanese lawyer took a taxi directly to the Indian embassy. With crocodile tears, Mr. Ahmed Sulla narrated to the Indian officials how his daughter met with a fatal car accident in Bombay and how she is lying dying at a government hospital, which meant for Hindu untouchables and poor Muslims. He then, with a weeping voice, begged them to give him a visa to travel to the great Hindu land, which produced the greatest thinker of the 20th century, the Mahatma Gandhi, and the greatest poet ever existed, Rabindranath Tagore. He wants to fly to Bombay to see his only daughter Anaz Ahmed Sulla, who is studying medicine in the best medical college at the University of Bombay before she emits her last breath, departs from this world, and goes to spend her eternity with her holy prophet Muhammad in paradise where there are rivers of wine, honey, and milk. After creating that drama, Mr. Ahmed Sulla has been assured by an Egyptian female employee that his request is going to be fulfilled right away. From her name Aisha Ayub, he understood that the pretty Egyptian girl is a Muslim, and that is why he used Islamic jargons to win her religious sentiments and compassion. The Arab girl told him she will take his application directly to the Indian diplomat who okays every request for a tourist visa. She also said there was not a single application for a visiting visa to India that had ever been rejected before. Her assuring words fell like cold water in his burning heart. He thanked her many times for her kind words. He even gave her a few Egyptian pounds as a token of appreciation. When the Egyptian girl tried to refuse his bribe, he said to her she must accept it as a gift from a loving father to his good daughter. He also said to her that her sweet eyes and beautiful face made her look exactly like a twin sister to his beloved daughter Anaz, who is dying in a hospital in Bombay City. After the cute Egyptian girl assured him that everything is going to be all right with his sick daughter and that he will get a visa instantly, the wrathful father occupied a seat and waited eagerly for his Indian visa to be stamped in his brand new Sudanese passport. He decided to fly from Cairo to Bombay and attack his apostate daughter and beat the shit out of her and force her to repent on her knees and utter the Islamic Shahada with hot tears. He also wants to reach her and hammer her mercilessly until her devils leave her head and then bring her in chains back to her fatherland. He also swore by his exalted Allah, his holy Quran, and also the honor of his noble Arab tribe, and by his great-grandfather, the Prophet Muhammad, may the prayers and peace of Allah be upon him, that he will never allow his wicked daughter to spread her legs again and go out of Sudan. If her handsome and highly educated Arab husband Osama Hashim Sulla wants to take her again as his lawful wife, he has to come in person and remarry her and live with her in Khartoum. The proud Sudanese lawyer concluded that his daughter Anaz is the kind of woman who should never be given the freedom to decide for herself. Every decision in her life should be made by either her father or husband. After all, his daughter is a woman, and the Islamic heritage said, 4 things can never be trusted: the sultan, money, time, and woman, even if you lived with her for a long time. The proud Sudanese lawyer behaved like the hasty man who had a bottle of ghee for sale. While he was sitting in the main market and waiting for a buyer, he built many sandcastles in his mind. He told himself, if he sold the bottle of ghee at a good price, he must find a beautiful woman and marry her. If Allah gives him a son with her, he has to raise him up strictly. If his son does not listen to him, he should chastise him and beat him with his rod like this. The hasty man happened to have a big rod with him. Instead of his imaginary son, he hid his bottle, broke it, and spilled it in the ground, all its ghee. So, that particular morning, the extremely angry Sudanese lawyer may have hit the pretty Egyptian girl Aisha and kill her instead of his apostate daughter Anaz. Alas, the sad expression on the face of the Egyptian beauty conveyed the message before her sweet lips uttered it. She said with a sad voice, "I am deeply sorry, sir. Your application for a visiting visa to Bombay has been rejected by the Indian ambassador himself. Mr. Rao Patel, the Indian ambassador, informed me that this man's name is blacklisted in all Indian embassy's computers in the world. His name showed that he had already been rejected twice by the Indian embassy in Khartoum, Sudan. Therefore, no matter which country in the world he goes to, he will not be given a visa to travel to India. Even if he obtained a visa through bribery or forgery still, he will be denied entry and sent back from any airport or port in entire India. He then told me to tell you that your feet can never touch the holy Indian soil again." The proud Sudanese lawyer listened to the words of the lovely Egyptian girl with unbelieving ears. They dropped word after word like hot acid in his ears and increased his wrath to the highest degree possible. He felt he was going to explode or have a major heart attack and die at any moment. He began to sweat and shake from head to feet. The kind Egyptian girl scared that the Sudanese man may drop dead in front of her at any moment. Therefore, she ran and brought a cup of water and handed it to him. Mr. Ahmed Saleh's trembling right hand held the glass of water for a few seconds before it dropped it, and his paralyzed and boiling body at the same time dropped dead on the scattered shreds of the broken glass and spilled water. Chapter 39. The Second Muslim Wife. Miraculously, the dead, gone, and departed spirit of the father of the so-called accursed and apostate girl Inaz Ahmed Saleh has returned to his expired body after spending in hell 3 days and 3 nights. For 72 hours, the heartbroken man remained in a comatose state in a filthy and crowded government hospital in Egypt. The proud Sudanese lawyer, Mr. Ahmed Saleh, might have died a lonely death, and his corpse would have been dumped inside a hole somewhere in the outskirts of the metropolitan city of Cairo. In that case, his arrogant wife might not know where her husband vanished from the land of the living people. Then, he will be reported by the Sudanese TV channels, radio stations, and newspapers as among those missing people who left their houses and never returned. Most probably, the dead man might have vehemently contested his untimely departure with the angel of death and begged his Allah to give him another life. His Allah reluctantly accepted his petition and sent him out of hell back to earth. Then, his alleged prophet of God Muhammad warned him not to return back to him in hell before killing his apostatized daughter. He reminded him that he commanded all Muslims that whoever changes his religion must be killed. After overcoming that major heart attack and after spending 1 week in that beggar's hospital, the proud Sudanese lawyer decided to enlist the help of someone who is dear to his daughter. He went with his tail between his legs to Tariq Haroun al-Ajabo and begged him to help him to restore the beautiful image of his proud Arab family, which his bad daughter, through her scandalous apostasy, had tarnished its good reputation. Furthermore, Mr. Ahmed Saleh has swallowed his deeply seated pride and prejudice and proposed to give his daughter in marriage to her Karabi lover, who according to him looks like an ugly black crow. Before making that unbelievable marriage offer, the proud lawyer knew after he and his arrogant wife had insulted the Sudanese wealthy business tycoon, Mr. Haroun al-Ajabo, and his only son Tariq with every racist insult and many filthy curses that the ungrateful human beings as them might use. He expected that the African boyfriend may not agree to come again for the rescue of his Arab girlfriend Inaz. To avoid such likely expected rejection, he decided to tempt the fur boy with the offer of the marriage of his beautiful Arab girl whom he knows he loves her more than he loves his God and family. Therefore, the proud Arab father has chosen the lesser evil between his daughters continuing in her abominable apostasy or her marriage to the Karabi and Jangawi Sudanese black boy who allegedly looks like an ugly crow. Even so, at first, the African boyfriend Tariq thanked the proud Arab man for his kind offer, but he said he had already found a suitable Arab girl and married her. She is an Arab girl who did not say that her Sudanese fiancé and his Egyptian fiancé are unsuitable or unmarriageable couples. She just thanked Allah and his prophet for the rich fiancé they brought for her and agreed to the marriage of a black Sudanese boy. Tariq's new bride is an Egyptian girl. He found her through online dating of a Muslim marriage agency. That cyber marriage agency charges a lot of money from old Muslim guys who are interested in finding young virgin brides. Also, those Muslim men who cannot find girls through their personal efforts due to their old age, ugliness, handicap, and their low social status, racial backgrounds. Black skin colors use that online marriage agency to hook them with the poor families who are ready to give their daughters in marriage to rich prospective spouses. The defective male applicant has to fill an online application and state his social and financial status and precisely how much dowry he is prepared to offer to the family of his expected Muslim bride. Tariq Harun Al-Ajabo mentioned truthfully how wealthy his family is and what is his skin color and country of origin, and that he wants an Arab girl with long hair, red or white complexion who must agree to marry a Muslim boy who has a black color. The agents of the online marriage agency went from a poor area to another in Cairo City until they found a poor family who accepted the tempting offer and agreed to give their virgin Arab daughter in marriage to the black African boy before seeing him personally. The bride of Tariq is a poor Arab girl who used to live with her destitute Egyptian family in the Muslim graveyards among the tombs of dead people. In Cairo City, many poor people are living inside the graveyards. Even the poor of the poorest slum dwellers in India have not been forced by their misery to abide among the dead like zombies before their death. To be brutally frank, his Egyptian wife is an unbelievably ugly and skinny girl who has no breasts and flesh on her bones. She also has a flat backside and no buttocks at all. If she is walking on the street, the person will not know whether she is coming forward towards him or going backward from him. She is like a walking skeleton or a zombie that came out of her grave. Her teeth are visible even though her mouth is closed up most of the time. When she speaks, she snores and her voice sounds like that of an ogre. She is the opposite female in her looks as compared to his former beautiful and sexy Arab girlfriend Inaz. Tariq bought that ugly Arab girl from her miserable Egyptian family through his father's great wealth. His parents came from Khartoum to Cairo and attended the wedding of their beloved son and his Arab bride. The only physical virtues which tempted Tariq and his fur parents to purchase that impoverished girl are her skin color and straight hair. She is reddish in her complexion, and for the black African Sudanese, she appeared as Miss World. Sudanese people have a serious problem with skin color and the straight and long hair of a female. And that is why every Sudanese student wants to marry an Indian girl who has yellow skin or white color and straight and long hair that reaches her bums, but this wish can rarely be fulfilled. Just to avoid being distracted for long by the side issue, to put it in a nutshell, Indians are some of the most racist people on the face of the earth when it comes to a person's skin color and matrimony. If you are a black foreigner, Indians will treat you kindly, but if you fall in love with their daughter and want to marry her, you will be out of your mind. They will never permit it. No matter how rich you are and no matter how much you offer them as dowry for their daughter's hand in marriage, they will never agree. They may rather live and eat dirt the rest of their lives than agree for their daughter to marry a black Negro. The only Arabs who sometimes give their daughters in marriage to Sudanese men are the Egyptians. The other Arabs of the Middle East and North Africa never allow their females to wed Sudanese males, no matter how much the latter offer them in exchange for their daughters' hands in marriage. Anyhow, the proud Muslim father preferred his Arab daughter to wed the so-called Karabi boy who looks like an ugly black crow, which more tolerable for him than leaving her to remain an apostate from Islam and dies as a filthy infidel Christian woman and goes to hell. His pride and arrogance cannot tolerate an apostate girl in his Arab tribe. His Shurjian tribe will tell you in pride, "We are Shurjia and Arabs. We memorize the Quran by heart and teach others the hadiths of our great-grandfather, the Prophet Muhammad." Mr. Ahmed Sulla convinced Tariq that as a Muslim man, the Quran gives him the right to have up to 4 wives at the same time. Although the African boy is already a married man, the tempting offer of the cunning father of his former Arab girlfriend Inaz made him agree to have a second wife according to the blessed sunnah of his Prophet Muhammad. Especially now his unfulfilled life dream can be at last realized. Then, the Sudanese lawyer took the Karabi boy to a mosque and requested an Egyptian imam to conduct the marriage of his Arab daughter Inaz Ahmed Sulla with the good Muslim boy Tariq Harun Al-Ajabo. He is the same imam who falsified in the past through bribery the divorce certificate of Anas and Tariq. Two mentally sound male adults witnessed the marriage contract. The Sudanese lawyer acted as a wali for his absent daughter. Tariq is her new groom, the Egyptian imam is their mazoon, and the two Muslim males are the witnesses. After that halal Islamic marriage has been legally and religiously conducted, the imam issued two marriage certificates. He gave one certificate to the father of the bride Inaz Ahmed Sulla and one to her groom Tariq Harun al-Ajabo. On the following day, the polygamist husband Tariq has been sent by his second father-in-law to the embassy of the accursed Hindu idolaters. Mr. Ahmed Sulla waited a couple of blocks away from the building where his son-in-law went to apply for a visiting visa to Bombay. The proud man, scared that his spirit may leave his body again and descend forever in Hades if he steps a foot again in that taboo Hindu temple which is called the Indian Embassy in Egypt. Shortly after, the son-in-law came with a fresh 6 months visiting visa to India fixed on the last page of his Sudanese passport. Thus, the extremely angry father of Anas shouted thrice, Allahu Akbar, before he congratulates his son-in-law for his great achievement. A couple of days later, he kissed the Karabi polygamist husband goodbye at the Cairo International Airport and sent him to Bombay with many curses and threats to his accursed apostate daughter. Chapter 40. The Shameful Sex Scandal. On that fateful night, the precious life of the kidnapped wife Inaz has been miraculously snatched from her police abductors just in the nick of time. There are only 30 minutes left for her Muslim captors to drag her inside the plane and chain her to her seat and send her to her death in the so-called land of the people of black faces, Sudan. By then, the wicked emir of the Muslim Brotherhood and the two Sudanese diplomats had already spat on her face and left. Their filthy mouths had repeatedly cursed her and reminded her what she was going to face upon her arrival at the Khartoum International Airport. On their way back, the three evil Sudanese men congratulated each other for their great victory. They believed to have swiftly brought an end to that abominable act of the apostasy of the despicable Sudanese girl Inaz. Their action, they thought, should be a warning and a reminder to any other Sudanese student who may try to follow in her footsteps. On the same night, the emir met with his top leaders and narrated to them what he and two Sudanese diplomats from their embassy had done to that despicable and apostate Sudanese girl. The leaders thanked their demagogue godfather for his great deed and then offered 2 prayers of prostrations to their God Allah and his prophet Muhammad. Then the leaders published in their newsletter of the Muslim Brotherhood what had happened to the apostatized Inaz Ahmed Sulla. Many copies of that newsletter had been distributed to Sudanese students all over the city of Bombay. Most of those copies were hand-delivered. Moreover, hundreds of emails with attachments of that newsletter were sent to Sudanese students studying in other Indian cities. Those emails showed the photos of the apostate Inaz while surrounded by some Indian police officers and policewomen. Her hands are restrained by handcuffs and her feet in fetters, and the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood and 2 Sudanese diplomats standing by her side like 3 demons of death and destruction. Pune particularly has been flooded with copies and emails of the so-called happy letter. Many emails have been sent to relatives, neighbors, and friends in Sudan. Some Sudanese students celebrated their victory with fireworks. Therefore, when the rays of the sun of the next day rose above the raging waves of the Arabian Sea, the emir of the Muslim Brotherhood has been collectively declared by all Sudanese students one of the greatest heroes of jihad of modern Islam. Some students called him the resurrection or new avatar of the greatest military genius commander of the Muslim army Khalid ibn al-Walid, who had been nicknamed by his prophet Muhammad, the only sword of Islam. Needless to say, a few hours later, the so-called great Sudanese hero has been dragged out of his bed by 6 Indian policemen from his apartment at the Baikula area. The wicked emir was damn tired and sleeping and snoring when the Bombay police showed up and raided his apartment. One of his roommates responded to the heavy knocking on the door and threw it wide open. Immediately, 15 fully armed Indian cops rushed in. They showed his photo and shouted the name of the foreign student they were looking for. The terrorist students at once sold their leader and pointed the police to the room where he is sleeping and snoring as if he is lying in hell. It was 6:30 a.m. when the police raid took place. The emir returned from the Kalaba area at 4:40 a.m. He slept for less than a couple of hours before he was jolted out of his deep slumber and placed under arrest. He might have slept until the evening of that day if he had not been captured and his evil plot is foiled. The two Sudanese diplomats have been likewise raided in their hotel room and placed under arrest. Their arrest is not without resistance as that of the Emir of the Muslim Brotherhood. The anti-terrorist police obtained a spare key from the front desk before they raided their room. The police expected the two Sudanese men might jump out of the window and flee away. Experience taught Bombay police valuable lessons in dealing with African students. Many times, the Bombay Narcotics Police went to arrest foreign students who were involved in drug activities, and those students jumped out their windows and avoided capture. Some Nigerian students jumped from their window on the fourth floor and escaped arrest. So, the anti-terrorist police used the spare key and unlocked the door, and rushed in with their loaded guns ready to fire in case the suspects may try to harm them. They found the two Sudanese diplomats naked on beds with two Indian hookers. The two girls are bare naked too. Worse than all, both girls are underage. For someone being caught red-handed while he is having sex with a minor girl in India is worse than for him being caught with 50 kilograms of drugs. It is more preferable to be arrested for first-degree murder or terrorist plot than to be arrested for raping an underage Indian girl who is a 12-year-old. Their female victims are 12 and 13 years old underage prostitutes. As if the city of Bombay has been hit by a mighty tornado or else the Arabian Sea has erupted with a powerful tsunami and flooded the cosmopolitan city when the morning newspapers came up with the disgraceful photos of those two Sudanese diplomats. Their photos are accompanied by the photos of their underage sex victims. One of those two rapists is in his late 50s and the other one is 63 years old. Each one of them is having one wife in New Delhi and 3 wives in Sudan. The newspapers included a long police rap sheet of serious charges laid against them. The least of those serious charges is their involvement in a plot of kidnapping and attempting to smuggle an innocent Sudanese female student out of India and sending her to Sudan to be put to death for changing her religion from Islam to Christianity and marrying an Ethiopian Christian boy. In order to carry their evil plot, the two Sudanese diplomats bribed some Indian Muslim police officers in the Bombay Criminal Investigation Department and made them do their dirty job. The newspapers also carried in their front pages the photos of the lovely apostate Sudanese girl and her extremely beautiful Ethiopian husband. A brief history of her abusive former married life with her ex-husband Osama and her persecuted past and present life has been mentioned. Also, a quick interview with the married lovers, Joseph and Anaz, is included. Hindus and Muslims of India hate each other with bitterness, and always each group waits for a reason to defame the other group. Therefore, the scandal of those two Sudanese Muslim diplomats is a powerful weapon that fell in the hands of the Hindu media men and women, and each and everyone decided to use it to its fullness to cause the downfall of their sworn enemies, the Muslims. That day, the International Students' Hostel has been crowded with Sudanese students. Not a single Sudanese student among the 1,400 students who are studying at Bombay University went to his college that day. They gathered in groups of 10s and 15s and 20s and began to discuss this serious matter. They all concluded that the despicable Anaz has brought the downfall of their beautiful religion Islam and tarnished the bright name of their great country Sudan. If she happened to be there with them, even if she is guarded by 10 fully armed police officers, those extremely outraged students might have cut her into pieces with their bare hands and chewed her flesh with their sharp teeth. If the policemen have to kill half of them, the remaining half must carry out the Islamic wazba on her and slay her in an honor killing. Many of them swore by their God Allah and Holy Quran to avenge her evil apostasy and haram marriage, which they have defamed the name of their beautiful Islam and the injured honor of their great country Sudan. Chapter 41. The Unpleasant Surprise. On the night of her kidnap, the Muslim apostate Inaz Ahmed Sulla has been transferred by a police car from the Bombay International Airport to the nearest police headquarters. Mr. Vijay Alexander and his Indian wife Mrs. Mary Alexander followed them in their Mercedes car. The police took her statement and allowed the Alexander couple to take her to their residence. Her apprehended Ethiopian husband Joseph Abraha has been released from jail on the following morning. He could not walk on his broken legs and badly beaten body, which had been hammered by the cruel Indian police interrogators. Therefore, he has been brought on a stretcher to his apartment. He returned to his apartment in the Bandra area along with 2 policemen. Those 2 police officers have been appointed to guard his apartment during the day, and at 6 p.m. they will be replaced by 2 policemen for the night shift who are armed guards too. Therefore, he is told that this protective arrangement is temporary. It became crystal clear that the life of the apostate Sudanese girl in India is involving high risk. So, she and her husband have become marked targets to the guns of the Muslim foreign terrorist students. In the meantime, the scandal of those 2 disgraceful Sudanese diplomats and the apostasy of the Muslim girl made Hindu journalists write hundreds of defaming articles against Muslims. The religion of Islam has been heavily criticized and ridiculed. The Prophet Muhammad's name has been dragged to the sewers. He is called a fanatic prophet, child molester, rapist, murderer, invader, terrorist, and many more ugly names. Accordingly, Inaz has been advised by the kind Christian family to travel to New Delhi and go to the United Nations office and apply for refugee status, and subsequently she can apply for resettlement in a Western country such as Canada or Australia or the USA. Meanwhile, the apostate Sudanese girl Inaz became scared to venture out of her hiding place or go any public place because of the high probability of kidnapping her again by the corrupt Muslim police officers or get killed by one of those Muslim terrorist students. She knows her Ethiopian husband will be outnumbered if those students see them in New Delhi and try to harm them and then kill her. She heard that the UN office in the capital city of India is always crowded with Sudanese students who are looking for opportunities to immigrate to the West. Every Sudanese student wants to escape from the hell of Sudan and go to the paradise of the West. As a matter of fact, each and every Muslim man and woman loves to go to one of the promised lands of the infidels, the land that flows with honey and money. The heart of Inaz is filled with great dread after the foiled plot of her arrest and kidnap. She is specifically scared of her dangerous father. She expected that some of those Sudanese students might have already contacted him through the phone and informed him about her apostasy from Islam and her conversion to Christianity. They might also have told him about her un-Islamic marriage with an Ethiopian Christian student. She expected that her Muslim father would fly immediately from Khartoum to Bombay and come and kill her as an apostate girl from Islam, and also perform her honor killing for daring to marry an infidel Christian boy while she is still bound by her Islamic marriage to her Arab husband Osama. She also recollected how her father became extremely outraged when he heard a rumor that his daughter in India had married a Sudanese boy without his knowledge and consent. He flew from Khartoum to Pune and almost slain her in an honor killing. When she shared her worries with Mr. Vijay Alexander, he understood her fears and concern. He at once contacted his friend, the head of the Bombay Criminal Investigation Department, CID, who rescued her from her police abductors and told him about the high possibility of killing the apostate Muslim girl Inaz by her Sudanese father or another close relative for her apostasy and her marriage with a Christian foreign student. The head of the CID assured Mr. Vijay Alexander that he will do everything he can to ensure her safety while she is living in India. Then, he asked his friend to tell the apostate Sudanese girl to give him the full names of her father, mother, brothers, sisters, uncles, cousins, and any other relatives she can remember. Inaz prepared a list which included over 200 of her close and far relatives and gave it to Mr. Vijay, who faxed it to his friend. Then, the head of the CID entered all those names on the blacklist. And that is why her father and mother's applications for visiting visas to Bombay had been rejected by the Indian embassies in Khartoum and Cairo. The only person Inaz has never thought of or anticipated him to conspire with her father against her is her African ex-boyfriend Tariq Haroon Alajabo. For her safety, the Muslim apostate foreign female student Inaz Ahmed Sulla has been stopped by the police of Bombay from going to her medical college. She even has been advised by the Alexander family to stop temporarily meeting her Christian husband. Nevertheless, they agreed that the 2 married lovers can meet once in the week during Sunday service in their church. Their meeting in a public place such as the church will also place them at high risk. Therefore, for the sake of fellowshipping and worshiping with their other Christian brothers and sisters, the lovers decided to take that risk. On a particular Sunday afternoon, as the lovers are coming out of the church, Inaz has been stopped by the Sudanese Christian girl Mary Akal. For the first time, Mary has brought to her church her Muslim sex partner Khalid Alajabo. It is the Muslim sex partner who conveyed the incredible news to Inaz. In front of her husband Joseph, Alexander's family, and other Christians, he told Inaz that her Muslim husband has come all the way from Egypt to India and is looking for her. The incredible information hit Inaz and those with her like a bolt of powerful lightning. The body of Inaz began to tremble and sweat. She thought her Arab husband Osama Hashim Sulla has come all the way from the Middle East to India to kill her for daring to divorce him and marrying a Christian man, and also for her apostasy from Islam. Every pair of eyes began to stare at her. It seemed all of them, including the good Christian family, have believed the words of the Sudanese boy. They have jumped to a hasty conclusion that the Sudanese girl Inaz has a Muslim husband, but she lied to the church leadership and other Christians and hid her former marriage with her Sudanese husband. She hid her marital status because she wanted to marry the handsome Ethiopian boy, Joseph. They thought even her Christian husband has no knowledge of her concealed valid Islamic marriage. They also know in that case her second marriage while she is still bound with a former marriage is invalid and a crime punishable by Indian law. Therefore, in the eyes of many of them, Inaz has suddenly transformed from an innocent victim girl to a wolf in sheep clothing. She has turned from an angel of light into a demon of darkness. It is her handsome Ethiopian husband Joseph who spoke first and tried to correct the misunderstanding. He told the Sudanese boy, "It is true Inaz used to have a Muslim husband, and she told him about it before he married her." Then, he quickly added, "Inaz had gone to Bandra court along with me and filed for a divorce, and the Indian court granted her petition and divorced her from her Muslim husband Osama Hashim Sulla." Upon hearing the Christian husband's justification of his apostate Muslim wife, the wicked Sudanese guy Khalid Alajabo laughed, and through his laughter, he said, "Osama Hashim Sulla is the first Arab husband of Inaz Ahmed Sulla. He is her first cousin too. But her second Sudanese husband, who is looking for her now, is called Tariq Haroun Alajabo. Tariq is her first boyfriend, and he was her neighbor in Khartoum too. Inaz had married him when the two of them used to live in the same apartment and sleep on the same bed in Pune city. That marriage was false and sham," Joseph responded quickly. The two friends, Inaz and Tariq, were forced by the Sudanese leader of the Muslim Brotherhood to get married against their wishes. However, the father of Inaz refused to accept that false marriage, and he destroyed the marriage certificate and threw it on the face of that wicked terrorist leader. Oh man. Tariq is my cousin's brother. His father and my father are real brothers who have the same mother and father. My full name is Khalid Mamoun Alajabo, and his name is Tariq Haroun Alajabo. We grew up together in Khartoum. At present, my cousin Tariq is staying with me in my apartment in the Kalina area. He showed me his marriage certificate, which has the name and signature of the father of Inaz, the famous Sudanese lawyer, Mr. Ahmed Sulla. Here in my pocket is a copy of that official document." Then, the sex partner of the adulterous Sudanese girl Mary took out of his pocket a paper and handed it over to Inaz. All this time, Inaz has become extremely disturbed by the news of the sudden appearance of her African ex-boyfriend. However, when the copy of her marriage with Tariq was placed in her hand, she looked at it. With trembling hands, she read it. The certificate has confirmed every word the Sudanese boy Khalid Mamoun Alajabo has spoken. It is in the Arabic language. No one standing with her could read it except her and Tariq's cousin. Even the Sudanese Mary does not know how to read or write in Arabic. "Where's Tariq now?" Inaz asked in a faint voice. "He is living with me in my apartment in the Kalina area. I can take you to him right away if you want to meet him." "Yes, I want to see him and talk to him."